Hey, I'm Danielle, and today I'm going to tell you about the worst yoga class that I have ever taught. It was painful. I'll tell you all about it. But for some context first, I've been teaching yoga for about 1.5 years now. I taught starting right after my training, and I'd been teaching an introductory class for about 6 months when I decided to take on this new style. It's called Fire, and it's essentially a combination between a HIIT style workout, high intensity interval training, and yoga, if you can believe that combination. It's a complex class. I mean, it involves a lot of parts and a lot of, it involves a good memory as well, because you have to keep it all stored right here, all these different pieces of the class that you've planned. And let me tell you, surprisingly, the first fire class that I ever taught, it went great. I did really well. It was pretty basic, but I mean, I nailed it for the first time around. And so I told my manager, hey, I'd love if you would come to the next class and observe and give me some feedback. So a week went by, and that next Monday, I had the fire class and then I had my introductory class that I was teaching right after it. And that day was quite a day. I was actually moving apartments, so I'd been carrying stuff and I was sweaty, and I really did not get as much time as I wanted to prepare. And this is not a class that you can just, wing it. You need to have it all mapped out and have it in your head and know what you're doing. I did not know what I was doing. And to make it worse, I definitely felt the pressure of my manager right there. She's a great person. She's really easygoing, really fun, and really accepting, if you can believe it, head of a yoga department. So she went in and she was kind of doing stretches and, didn't look up and kept her head down and was writing in a notebook. And about a minute into the class, I started completely bombing it. I mean, I didn't know what cues I was giving. I completely forgot what I had planned for the class. It was I'm sure you can relate if you've done public speaking before. It was like this out-of-body experience where you're just looking down on yourself, feeling like you're kind of in a cloud and just being like, what the hell is she saying? That's what I felt like. And as you're giving yoga cues, you need to say different body parts, touch your knee to your elbow. And I was just forgetting simple names of body parts. It was just a complete mess. And I just completely lost it. I felt the sweaty palm feeling. I didn't know what was going on. My timing was all off, and I honestly had no idea what I was saying. And to make it worse, I looked over there and my manager didn't even look up. She had her head down on her notebook doing her little stretches, and I was just losing it. Each moment felt like a frickin' eternity. I was going through, I could hear myself judging myself and having this mental conversation as I was yoga cueing. So I even had less of an idea of what I was saying because I was so busy with my mental conversation of God, if I could just escape this. It's going so badly. I can't believe this. I just want to get out of here. And who knows what the hell was coming out of my mouth. Okay, enough details here. You get it. It was really painful. And at the end of those 45 minutes, my manager went out to her office, and I had about, I think, 10 minutes until the next class started that I was teaching. And I just I feel like I avoided eye contact with the handful of people who had been in there in that class, and I took a few deep breaths and I ran to her office and I essentially said, I don't know what the hell happened there. And she was like, what do you mean? And I said, that was the worst yoga class I've ever taught. She said, honestly, I didn't think it was that bad for your second time. And I was shocked. I was like, wait. Are you serious? And I actually asked her, do you remember that SpongeBob episode where Squidward has that restaurant and he says, forget everything you know besides fine dining, and then someone asks him his name, and he's like, what's my name? And you see his brain, and there's all these little SpongeBobs running around, and there's fires. What's his name? And they're searching these empty file cabinets. That's what I felt like during the class. And I told her that. And she just laughed at me, and she was like, honestly, it's not a big deal. I mean, you're obviously still learning, and it was fine. And luckily I had enough experience with that next class I was teaching, the introductory one, to kind of be able to do it in my sleep if I wanted, in a good way. And so I was able to kind of click into my routine and say what I needed to say, and taught a pretty good introductory class. But I still felt pretty tense, and I could feel that, sense of failure within me from the class before. And it may seem like I'm making a huge deal about this, but like when you're in front of people and you just have no idea what the heck's coming out of your mouth and you're like, I'm bombing this, it sits with you. I mean, you're tense and you've just still got that mental conversation going. Oh gosh, and I remember sitting with her afterwards for the feedback, and like, I love feedback, I love constructive feedback because I like to get better. But in that moment, I was like, I don't want to hear it. It ended up not being that bad. And she gave me a few specific practical things to change and just, you know, told me she was surprised that I was so critical about it. And I generally feel like I'm pretty accepting of myself, but I just like was so uncomfortable with how that all went. Oh, and to make it worse, that was the only time that that manager had ever seen me teaching yoga. So I just felt like she trusted me with subbing all these classes and taking on these classes permanently, and I just thought that she would think I was a bad teacher. But that's not what she thought at all. And I was surprised by her response as much as I was the intensity of my own. But enough about that crazy story. Let's talk about the moral here. We're always gonna be our own harshest critic. I mean, 99 times out of 100 probably. And it kind of takes a nice reminder from others. Like, it's nice to believe in yourself and be able to be your own, you know, best cheerleader, but sometimes we just need the encouragement of other people. And that night when I was journaling, I actually remembered two specific moments within the last few weeks where I was that person for someone else, specifically other yoga teachers, where I'd been in their class and I talked to them afterwards and we did kind of this formal feedback style that yoga teachers do. And it was very easy for them to think of what they'd done wrong and what they should have done better or could do better, and didn't really see the positive in it, didn't see how well they'd done, didn't see how much they'd grown. And I was still doing that for myself that night. And over the last few years, especially since that point, I've been really working on being okay with mistakes. The fact of the matter is that I'd taken on that class because I wanted a challenge, and the second time I ever taught it, I bombed it. Because I failed a little bit because it was a challenge. And I could say it was because I was moving and I was tired that day and I had the pressure of my manager being there. But, you know, maybe that was just bound to happen eventually, that I taught a terrible class with this new complicated style of yoga. I just had to get to the point where I said, that's okay. You know, it's okay that I taught a maybe even just mediocre class. Maybe a little sucky. And that's just how it was. And that's okay. You know, no one expects us to be perfect all the time, and if they do, they're probably struggling with their own perfectionism and feeling pretty similar to how you do. Honestly, these days, I am more accepting of myself, of mistakes. I love myself more, I appreciate myself, I see the good in myself more than I did then, and even more than I did a couple years ago. And I'm sure I'll take bigger risks and fall on my face, and the criticism will come back, because that's how our human brains work. But I'll deal with it as it comes. But anyways, if you're struggling with this self-criticism or feeling like you should do better, you tend to notice what's wrong more than what's right, you're in good company. There's a lot of people struggling with this, and you can get better over time. It really just takes purposefully noticing in those moments where either things go wrong or you feel like you could have done better, noticing what you did do well first and foremost. It's not gonna just take care of itself, you know? You need to actively be putting your eyes on that perspective of, what am I doing right? What am I doing well? And the more you highlight that, the more your brain is gonna filter for that, and the more you can, you know, really see the best in yourself. So next time you notice yourself being critical, take a pause, take a deep breath, and just notice what you are doing well. And you'll start to change your perspective slowly but surely. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment if you can relate to any of this here today. Click subscribe so that you can stay in the loop, get more videos like this, and I hope you have a great day. Bye!